So I'm working on a project at the moment. So I bought myself some purple tape and some bandages from Amazon. But I only need actually just 2 of the bandages here. So I've got quite a few surplus. Well, that escalated quickly. Hi everybody, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Now, as many of you will know, I am a massive fan of Final Fantasy XIV, the MMORPG. I think what Yoshi P has done with it is staggeringly good, and I think objectively it's the best MMORPG on the marketplace right now. And so it does kind of concern me with this post which came out this morning. Important changes to prohibited activities and account penalty policy in Final Fantasy XIV. So before I go into this, I want to say one thing. I think the community in Final Fantasy XIV is fantastic. It is probably one of the most welcoming, helpful, fun communities in a game I've ever been in, if not the best. People are very helpful if you have questions. They have great systems in game for you to get help from other players who are willing to offer it. I have very, very rarely come across any idiots in the game. And I mean very rarely. And I've been playing it, well, since technically 2010 when its first iteration came out, all the way through to when A Realm Reborn re-released, and then present day. Very rare that I come across idiots in the game. I find most people a pleasure to deal with, and I love it. It's such a relaxing experience to log on to the game. You don't feel like with other certain games that you're on the defensive at all. You do feel as if you're in a welcoming environment. And because of the way that they do put a lot of emphasis on social activities with free companies, free company housing, and ways for people to get involved, Eureka, stuff like that. I know Eureka isn't everyone's cup of tea, but the way that they try and get group activities together, it, for the most part, and for the greatest most part, does produce a wonderful sense of community within the game. And so when I read these first couple of paragraphs here, I think it sums up the philosophy of Final Fantasy XIV perfectly, in a very sensible and logical manner. So, they say, why we are changing, reasons for change. Until now, we have operated under the philosophy that this is an MMORPG and frequent in-game intervention by Square Enix would inhibit players' experience. Under this philosophy in mind, GMs have intervened only in cases of racial or sexual discrimination or other severe cases. GMs would not actively take action against other types of behaviour that were deemed to be annoying but not crossing the line for an objective eye. Instead, encouraging involved players to resolve the situation through communication, adding the players to the blacklist or other peaceful methods. I think this philosophy right here is spot on. Absolutely spot on. Sure, if severe cases come up, then by all means intervene. But otherwise, if somebody's being annoying, you have the blacklist option. You can just put them on a blacklist. If somebody is selling gold and you want to report that, because it does have an effect on the economy within the game, they now have a very simple system to report real money trading. Things like that. So I think this right here is absolutely perfect. But we then get this paragraph, and this changes quite a lot, and I don't understand the reasons why. However, times have changed. And I'm going to stop right there. Sure, times have changed, but they haven't changed within the game. And your emphasis has got to be on the game itself, not what ridiculous social idiocy is going on outside of Final Fantasy XIV. Square Enix, your responsibility is to Final Fantasy XIV and what's going on in-game and in-game only. And nothing is changing in terms of that. But that's by the by. However, times have changed, and although Final Fantasy is an MMORPG, it is now our belief that it is for the better for the community as a whole for us to intervene in situations where a player is subjected to the abusive behaviour of other players, rather than worrying about inhibiting communication between players. This is, to be honest with you, nonsensical stuff. Because if somebody is being abused, they can just blacklist them. If somebody is feeling as if they're being insulted or picked on or whatever, just blacklist the person. That's all they have to do. They will never hear from that person again. They can't. And so that ends everything. And as regards to worrying about inhibiting communication between players, if you are running almost a dictatorship of getting involved whenever somebody has their feelings hurt, then it's just going to turn into a shit show. But let me go to the prohibited behaviours, because if I scroll down, in all fairness, a lot of this is sensible stuff, right? Account sharing or loaning out your account. Fair enough. You know, we see that a lot in MMORPGs. It is prohibited behaviour. Real money trading. Yeah, absolutely agree. It has an effect on the economy. It has people hacking accounts to clear them out. All these real poisonous kind of elements. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Behaviour that disrupts the balance of the game. Third-party softwares, hacks, glitches, exploiting. Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Impersonating members of Square Enix and such. Yeah, no problem. All this is fraud. Yeah, conning people in game. Yeah, all of this is great and absolutely should be. But when you scroll up to the top, we get into the illogical side of things. This is all logical stuff. We get into the illogical side, and the reason why I say this is illogical is because this is now dealing with feelings. And God knows we live in the age of outrage. We live in the age of victim culture. Where people are desperate to play victim. But here we go. So, in the harassment, which they do put in inverted commas, which is quite correct, because it's very subjective what harassment is, which in itself is a problem for you. Harassment means speech and or behaviour that inflicts deep emotional distress on another person. It is an extremely serious violation, where Square Enix determines that harassment has occurred, a penalty equal to or higher than temporary service account suspension may be imposed. Now, they have added six levels of penalty here. 6 levels, which in itself is absurd because of this. But when we get on to the harassment, below is a non-exhaustive, so it can be added to, list of behaviour that could constitute harassment in Final Fantasy XIV. Discriminatory expressions based on race, fine. Nationality, fine. Thinking. Really? Really? Contrary points of view is now harassment. You say something, I don't agree with it, I'm offended, I'm a victim, you're harassing me because you're arguing your point, boom. Waste of time, waste of GM's time, waste of ridiculous. Gender, fine if you want to go there, sugar tits. Sexual orientation, gender identity. Nobody wants identity politics in their video games, except the people that get off on it. Just because somebody wants to identify as attack helicopter doesn't mean that somebody else should humour them and say, I accept that you identify as an attack helicopter. No. But now that would constitute harassment according to your own terms. And with identity politics being such a hot issue of driving people away from a product. You just have to look at Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics is in disarray. Absolute disarray because of people they brought in, and all they're doing is playing their identity politic game. And then you have, of course, the Star Wars universe, and look what they did to their fan base. And now you've got Doctor Who, and look what they've done to their fan base because they're playing the identity policy. Ah, dear God. So nobody likes identity politics at all. At all. And it is destructive. It is not harmonious. It doesn't bring people together. It actually discriminates within itself because it paints a picture of a villain that doesn't exist. And this is what you're doing. You're coming down like a ton of bricks on something that doesn't exist, on a community which is phenomenal. You should be so proud of the Final Fantasy XIV community. So proud of them. Because they are such a wonderful representation of your game. A wonderful representation. And so this is reactionary drivel. Drivel. And it goes on into nuisance behaviour. And look at lines like this. Even if it was not the intention of nuisance behaviour, a penalty may be imposed if the end result was that another person was hurt or obstructed. Oh, you hurt. Their feelings got hurt. Because you just went on a mountain, went or AFK to go to the loo or to make yourself something to eat, or you started watching a TV program and your time but you came back, oh no, he stood in my way. I'm hurt. My feelings are hurt. This is just nonsense. You're going to cause more problems than any that you solve. Even here we have some ridiculousness regarding, where is it? Let me see if I can find it. Some ridiculousness later on regarding you can't talk about history, which is obscene. Here we go. Actions that inflict emotional distress using content related to historical events or crimes. Don't mention the war, people. Ay, ay, ay. Square, this is a really bad idea. This is a really bad idea. If somebody is getting excessively attacked, you yourself have already stated this is when you intervene. And rightfully so, can I just stress. But if some people are having a spat, instead of them just hitting the blacklist button or TPing away, just leave them. Leave that idiot and alone. And as I said, which is such a rare occasion anyway, people in game have the ability to deal with this. This is nonsense. And introducing identity politics and think politics and hurt politics and feeling politics into your game isn't going to end well, because the people who get a kick out of this, the people who thrive off this, are going to abuse the living bejeebers out of it. Now, only time will tell if this has any true effect on the community whatsoever. My feeling is that it won't really, because you have a wonderful community. You have an absolutely wonderful community that doesn't behave, for the most part, in any of this. I've never experienced any of this in the game. And I don't mean it as a white dude. I mean in any social interaction where I've had massive groups of people working together. Massive groups of people working together. I've never experienced any of this, seen any of this happen to anybody in game. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. But if it's so minuscule, you've already got the policy in place to deal with it. Leave it alone. So, yeah, why? Just why, Square? Just nonsense. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do get a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and Twitch for live streaming links. They're in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.